would look for a motion to return from executive session.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. O'Brien, second by Mr. Cormier. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. So there was a motion seconded to return from executive session. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. In reference to pending litigation, workers' comp claim, Ed Sino, I look for a motion to accept the attorney's recommendation.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Dell,
Second.
second by Mr. O'Brien. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. All right, there'll be no attorney's report. We have the state legislators report already. We'll move on to the data presentation.
Good evening, everyone. Dr. Diorio and I want to thank you for the opportunity.
Dr. Piazza, can you turn the microphone on?
Turn it on.
Yeah, it was turned off for a second.
There we go. All right, start over. Good evening. Dr. Diorio and I would like to thank you for the opportunity to share our 2023-24 data with you today. We appreciate your ongoing support and guidance as we strive to enhance our educational environment and outcomes for our students. As we review the data, we want to start by acknowledging that the numbers we are about to see are not where we want them to be. However, this is not a reflection of our potential or the dedication of our educators or our students. Instead, it highlights areas where we have opportunities for growth and improvement. We believe that with several small strategic pivots, adjustments to our instructional practices, targeted interventions, and refined support systems, we can make a significant impact on student learning. These shifts may seem minor in isolation, but collectively, they will strengthen our ability to meet the needs of every learner and bring about the progress that we're aspiring to achieve. Today's data serves as a foundation for these steps that we'll take moving forward. And together, we believe we can turn these insights into actionable improvements that will drive meaningful change. So as we reflect on this past year, again, we acknowledge several challenges that have impacted our progress. The over-testing and the necessity of pulling students for extended assessment periods significantly limited instructional time. And additionally, the climate and culture within our district have been affected by various challenges, including multiple leadership changes and the introduction of new initiatives. We're going to take a comprehensive look at various performance metrics, including school day SAT results for both ELA and mathematics. We'll focus on our high need subgroups as well as make comparisons to state averages. We're going to also look at smarter balance in the same way. Our analysis will extend to our next generation science standards and GSS data, highlighting again subgroup performance in comparisons to the state. And additionally, we'll delve into behavioral trends with a 2-year comparison of both in-school and out-of-school suspensions, alongside insights from the DESA assessment, which is a social-emotional tool conducted in both the fall and the spring. And finally, we'll review attendance patterns, all of these areas which we believe are critical in understanding our progress and identifying our areas of growth. Before we actually get into the data, we do want to review our district priorities, since these drive our work. Well-being, meaningful learning, planning for future success, exceptional talent, and family and community partnerships. By focusing on well-being, we are ensuring that students and staff have the emotional and social support needed to thrive, which in turn creates a healthy learning environment. Meaningful learning emphasizes deep engagement with content, helping students make connections and apply knowledge in a real-world context. Planning for future success prepares students not only academically, but equips them for life outside the halls of Stratford. Nurturing exceptional talent ensures that we attract, retain, and develop educators who inspire excellence in our classrooms. And finally, our focus on family and community partnerships ensure that we are working hard, hand in hand, with parents, guardians, and community stakeholders, creating a collaborative approach that supports the whole student. Together, these priorities guide our work. They'll help us align our resources and create a cohesive framework to accelerate our student achievement. All right, so we'll get into it. We're going to start with our school day SAT. The Connecticut SAT school day is administered to all students in grade 11 in all Connecticut public schools. The first operational year of this in-day school SAT was back in 2015, 2016. The Connecticut SAT aligns with the CCS, the Common Core Standards, in both ELA and math, and it can be used for college admissions process, although as we know, a lot of colleges do not require it anymore. As you can see from these graphs here, I know they're probably difficult to see, but we will try to fill in as best we can. We want to look at the state, the comparison to the state. The state is the darker line at the top. We can see through this graph that Stratford does fall below. One of the visuals that we like to at least look at is, are we following the same trends as the state? The graph to the left shows all of our students together. Again, not where we want to be. We are below the state average, following similar trends. To the right, we isolated our high needs students. High needs, according to the Connecticut State Department of Education, includes our economically disadvantaged students who receive free and reduced lunch, our English language learners, as well as our students with disabilities. They are all lumped into that one group. Again, sort of a similar trend line. We had again, Stratford is the lighter blue. Dip right after COVID, and we've been trying to work our way up with a slight dip here. If you notice, the transition to a fully digital format in 2024, we also think might have affected these scores, helping kids get familiar with taking the test online. It's no longer the paper pencil coloring in the circles. One of the key reasons for that shift was to streamline the testing experience and make it more acceptable for students, allowing them to take the test on a familiar device. Having the school day SAT is also used to promote equity by offering the test during school hours, ensuring that more students, especially those from underserved backgrounds, have access to it without the barrier of weekend testing logistics. So we also broke it down this way, and again, I'll try to explain it to you if it's hard to see. This is broken down by subgroups. We broke it down by, this is the English language arts section of the test. We broke it down by subgroups. The Black and African American are the light blue. The Hispanic and Latino are the lighter blue. The dark navy is white students, and the pink is all, again, that's from the previous slide, the total score. Again, the top is from the state of Connecticut as a whole. The bottom is from Stratford. Again, we want to look at the trends. Are we following similar trends to the state, and where are we falling? If we look down here at our scores from 2021-22, you see it's sort of flat. And so we're going to look a little bit deeper into that and see why that is, and see how we can get those trending in the right direction. Moving on to the math. Again, you notice both the state and Stratford scores are going the wrong way. We're again looking at our Tier 1 instruction. We're checking on the gaps in our curriculum to really look at why the trends are moving the way they are. Also, if we isolated our high need students, again, extremely low. They seem to be following the same trajectory as the state. We did have a little jump between 22 and 23, but unfortunately we dipped back down this past year. And again, this is breaking down the math similar to the last slide, with the subgroups. Black and African American students, Hispanic and Latino, white, and then the overall. The top, again, is the state of Connecticut. The bottom is Stratford. And again, we know the numbers for 23 and 24 are definitely an area of concern, and one of those areas that we're really examining not only our curriculum but our tier 1 instructions and our Tier 2 and Tier 3 supports to help improve those grades. Turn it over to Dr. Diorio to go over the Smarter Balance.
Good evening, everyone. So following the same pattern as Dr. Piazza explained to you, we're starting with a line graph. Again, Connecticut is the darker blue, Stratford is the lighter blue. And following the same trends, we thought this was visually an easier way to show how we did here in Stratford. So this is Smarter Balance. Both Connecticut and Stratford Public Schools are facing similar challenges in the ELA area, English Language Arts. We have similar trend lines, and our subgroups of high needs, which is underneath, also, as Dr. Piazza explained what that consists of, was showing similar results, which is along the lines of flatlining, to put it out there quite bluntly and honest and transparently. So we will be focusing on Tier 1 instruction, as Dr. Piazza kind of mentioned. Teachers will be engaging in data breakdown, which we're going to talk about later on, what we're going to do with that data breakdown and analysis by school, by classroom, by the student subgroups, and by targeting instruction specifically for the growth of the opportunities of those students in those classrooms. We will get back to having compelling conversations as we did previously when we kind of saw our scores going up in Stratford. Compelling conversations is classroom teachers talking as a leadership team in their building about each individual student to show what that student needs for growth. So we're not just focusing on one area, we're really gonna holistically look at the entire classroom and put things in place of what each subgroup needs in order to show growth. We are also going to train teachers. We're looking at curriculum adjustments. Our curriculum committee, which you'll hear about later, is working on a pattern that's going to look at all the different subject areas and see where we can improve in our curriculum areas. And we cannot forget the importance of parent and community engagement. This is going to have to be a commitment that we are all taking to improve the scores here in Stratford. It cannot be just the classroom teachers and the building administrators making this move. Similar to what Dr. Piazza shared with you, this is just another way of looking at the breakdown. It's still ELA, the subgroups, same similar color patterns. I don't need to go over it again, but this slide provides a detailed breakdown of our previous discussion by examining performance across the various subgroups. We are committed to the transparency regarding our scores, which highlights the importance and the need to not only closing the achievement gap, which this clearly shows we have, but also fostering growth for each student, regardless, again, of the subgroup. I know I said that twice already or 3 times, but it's really important that we all understand that we're focusing on all the areas. Every student has the right to experience academic growth and success, and it is our responsibility to ensure that we implement targeted strategies and address the unique needs of each of the subgroups. You will later hear more about our plan, which incorporates a new reading program, which is evidence-based, also providing evidence-based interventions within the reading program, which is going to help teachers tremendously. And this approach also targets cultural sensitive pedagogy, which we feel is also extremely important in our instruction throughout our school day. Having a more inclusive environment that we started to have and talk about previously, we need to get back to that and continue showing that in our classrooms and helping teachers to teach with that cultural lens. For the area of Smarter Balance for math, again, all students are on top. Connecticut is showing the darker maroon, is that the family color here? And the lighter pink color, peach color is Stratford. So again, similar trend lines as Connecticut. We're not as far off in the trend, but we obviously need to move our scores to not just reach the Connecticut lines, but surpass them. We did see progress, I do want to mention. The bottom is the high needs, similar. You can see the same trend line there, but we do want to mention that we have hope and optimistic thoughts because our NWEA throughout the school at the end of last year showed tremendous growth. So if we can keep that trend going, our NWEA is kind of correlates with SBAC. So if we can keep improving on the NWEA scores, that will help our SBAC scores as well. They take the test the same way, it's computerized. Last year NWA was new to us, so although we didn't show as much growth we wanted, there was more growth in NWA than they showed in SBAC, which I know you heard already, but I have to reiterate, the students had testing fatigue. By the time SBAC came around, some of them were just done. It was a lot. And I know that it was mentioned before by one of the students about building thinking classrooms, so we do have other strategies, although we don't have a new math program, because that needs to be looked at and analyzed and determined if we need a new math program, or are we incorporating things like building thinking classrooms that's going to help support students collaborate with each other and think critically about math in particular. Next slide. Oh,
I did.
Sorry. So this slide offers a comprehensive analysis of our earlier discussion about performance across the various subgroups. Again, it's breaking it down, and you can see the Connecticut versus Stratford. Very similar scores from top to bottom, however, pointing out, making sure you're aware, Stratford is starting on the lower end, but the trend line is completely the same. So as long as we can do the things that you're going to hear about in a little bit, we are optimistic that by leveraging these insights and maintaining our focus on targeted intervention and supporting Tier 1, that we can sustain and enhance this positive trend, a positive trend moving forward. The next talks about NGSS, which is our next generation science standards. This is our science assessment that's given to grades 5, 8, and 11. So this is as a whole, and again, Connecticut is the darker green, light green is Stratford. Same trend line as you can see. The bottom is the subgroup where you can see Stratford dipped a little bit downwards, so we need to drill deeper on that for science and see what we can do to improve our scores in our science assessments. It does reveal concerns trending a low performance across the various grades, but we are going to look at curriculum alignment. I'm not sure when the last time science was really looked at carefully. Curriculum's been in place for quite a while, and probably important that we look at that and see the trend line of the curriculum and how it aligns to the assessments that we are taking. So last year we did a ton of assessment, and NWEA for science was one of them, and rather than scratching it, we are giving it for the fall. I, as a building principal last year, heard much conversation how the assessment wasn't what was being taught in the classroom. So that's a problem to hear that. So whether it's curriculum related, whether it's Tier 1 instruction related, or if NWA isn't good for science, then we'll address that. And there's no sense giving it to the students if it's not going to help improve our scores. But we're going to look at those things. We're going to look at instructional practices and student engagement. We don't want to forget student engagement. Low student engagement in science subjects can also contribute to underperforming scores, probably in all of the areas. As we move forward, it's going to be critical that we address these challenges collaboratively by focusing again on the curriculum alignment and the instructional strategies. This one breaks it down again by the subgroup, so you can see the difference in the scoring over the years, and from Connecticut on top versus Stratford on bottom. I know a couple things for the secondary. They're going to focus on 2 primary objectives. They're analyzing last year's NGSS scores and again breaking it down per student to see what needs to be changed or finagled, and they're also going to create or develop common formative assessments so that these assessments can be given as you go along, not waiting until a big assessment like this to find out that we're doing something wrong. So these common formative assessments will help guide their instruction moving forward. For elementary, we are working on integrating language development and vocabulary enhancement in the content knowledge across the various subject areas. Elementary crams a lot in very small hours. So in secondary, they have designated times aligned to the different subject areas. For elementary, you have minutes that you're supposed to follow, but there's no bell stopping you and then another bell starting you. And in order to get to all of this content, we feel that it's really important to see ways that we can engage and integrate the vocabulary and the content embedded in the other subject areas. We feel that would help.
Okay, now we're gonna look at some behavioral data. What you're seeing here is our out-of-school suspension. The way it's set up is the green is last year and the blue is the year before. And it goes month by month. It's just an interesting way to look at it, just so you can see some of the areas where it has improved across the way. I've done the totals for you. In 22-23, there were 442 out-of-school suspensions. And in 23-24, that number fell to 282, a difference of 160. Some key reasons as to why suspension numbers might be decreasing is our work with restorative practices. Implementation of restorative justice initiatives encourages conflict resolution and dialogue between students, reducing the need for suspensions by addressing the behavior at its root. We've also done a lot with social-emotional learning, teaching students emotional regulation, empathy, and communication skills. Our SEL programs have helped prevent conflicts and behavioral issues that might have also resulted in suspensions. We've issued changes in our discipline policy as well, and you'll see the results of that on the next slide, with a revision of these policies, to really limit the use of suspensions, particularly for minor infractions, focusing instead on alternate disciplinary measures. And we've also increased family and community engagement. We've talked about that already this evening, but involving families and community partners in addressing student behaviors, we've created more comprehensive support systems that have helped to reduce the rate of suspension. And of course, we're always trying to get more training for our teachers and our staff on restorative practices, classroom management, de-escalation techniques that will help also reduce the number of incidents that lead to suspension. The next slide is in-school suspensions. Again, the darker orange are last year's compared to the previous year's data, again, month by month. Here now, in 22-23, there were 686 in-school suspensions. And in 23 and 24, there were 701, an increase of plus 15. But of course, as I was saying, some of the reasons behind an increase in your in-school suspension numbers is that you're trying to decrease the out-of-school suspensions. Again, noting our shift in discipline policies, we're moving away from out-of-school suspensions, and there may be a deliberate increase in the use of in-school as an alternative. Keeping students in school where they can be held accountable for their misconduct. And also, there's been a focus on keeping kids in school. And that's not just in Stratford, okay? That's state and nationwide. But ISS allows students to remain engaged in academic activities and access support services, which we're trying to prioritize to minimize the learning disruptions that can be caused by out-of-school suspension.
So this goes over our DESA scores, and it was given to pre-K all the way through high school, but this only focuses on pre-K to 8 because I believe there was, they identified both, what was the reason? There was some adjusting, some things happened when giving the assessments, so how they're gonna fix that moving forward is having the students take it themselves, because currently it was given by the teachers. So that we didn't get accurate scores, so we didn't want to include them in this, but the DESA K8 is very positive. You can see the scores in the red on top were the fall scores, and on bottom, a huge decrease in their needs, building their skills in the areas that are showing on bottom, from self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and the initial, if you look at the top two, 77 and 75%, was in the area of goal-directed behavior and personal responsibility that both correlate and have direct impact on academics. So it's interesting that those were the higher areas, and although they reduced, we need to see how we can get those down even more so that they're more open and willing to learn. So truancy report is the next report that we're giving you. The Connecticut State Department of Education defines truancy as the following: A student is considered truant if they have 4 or more unexcused absences in a month or 10 or more unexcused absences in a school year. So although the numbers are not written on here, Connecticut, as when we calculated, was 22.5 and Stratford was 15.3. So that's wonderful news.
So this is one of the slides where Stratford wants to be below.
Right.
Just to
We're looking at it opposite. So some key reasons we feel why truancy rates might have improved: increasing focus on social emotional learning. We've heard it a million times, especially from Ms. Borges. You really have to be social and emotionally adept in order to be open for learning. So that's why we stressed and put a lot of energy into it. Targeted intervention programs, family engagement initiatives. We had a lot of initiatives going around to keep students coming to school, and partnering with the community was very helpful. Those all played crucial roles, we feel, in supporting our truancy numbers. So this shows the average daily attendance. All students for Connecticut is the blue line, and we are, I don't know what that is, orange, I think. And you can see that we've increased tremendously in our average daily attendance. So although we're reaching where Connecticut is, we were starting off the year before much lower in our attendance rate. Again, we, kudos to increasing the engagement, supportive learning environment that we've been stressing on the teachers the past few years. And we still need more family involvement, but we have been working on that collaboratively with community support, and we feel that that has definitely made an impact. The bottom is the subgroup, breaking it down by the different various subgroups, and even that area showed a good growth, nice growth. Oh, one more. We gave you another one. On chronic absenteeism, now this we want to go down to reduce our chronic absenteeism, and we are above the Connecticut line in this area and continue to decrease in our numbers. So we're very proud. I know you heard Ms. Borges state in June that we had decreased from 28% to 19.5% for Stratford. So that's kudos to all the hard work of the Stratford staff.
All right, so those are all the graphs that we're going to show you. But we do want to circle back to our district priorities and just reiterate that they are at the heart of our current improvement initiatives. These efforts are going to work together holistically to ensure that we provide this high-quality educational experience that we want for our kids. So just to review a little bit, we are committed to growth and improvement. We plan to implement several key strategies to foster development and support our students and staff. We are, right from the beginning, from the summer and into those first few days of professional development, we've stressed the need to get better, and that we all have to believe in ourselves and in our students that we have the potential to get better. And it's just about identifying what we need to make this happen. So we've talked about these before, but I just want to reiterate the need to reduce the amount of assessments. And we will significantly reduce the number of assessments to allow for more instructional time and to alleviate the testing burden on our students. Again, by minimizing the number of assessments, we create more time for meaningful learning. And that's from direct feedback from teachers and students. And we want to have more instructional engagement, reducing student stress, and again, getting back to that promoting student well-being. So we do want to focus on learning over testing, increased instructional time, reduce student stress, and then also provide time for reflection. We're going to have ongoing reflection throughout the year to see that these initiatives are in place and that they're having the desired effect that we want.
So this slide just shows our enhancement towards literacy and lifelong learning. You all know we have a new reading program. We approved the reading program. It was initially K-3, and to have consistency and roll out training everyone at once, we moved it up for K, instead of K-3, K to 6. And it's been wonderful as far as covering foundational literacy skills. That definitely needs to be in place in order for any grade level to improve. What we found were a lot of our upper grade students missing the foundational skills that our district did try to bring in But because the program we're currently using didn't automatically have it embedded, we had to provide resources for our staff. And I think in reflecting, at the end of the day, when you're bringing in all these resources to cover the needs of the students, it's confusing for teachers. It's a lot of work for them to look at their shelf and see what they're pulling off this time. Whereas interreading and interliteracy for grade 6, it's all embedded. And if they're following the script of the program, at least to begin with, to really get familiar with the routines, it's very routine oriented. It embeds social emotional learning into it. It embeds cultural pedagogy. So a lot of positives. It also has a component for family engagement. So that's an area that we're also going to focus on. And finally, creating lifelong learners. There are components on it, and teachers need to get comfortable using it so that they can get through the whole lesson, which the lifelong learning tends to be more at the end. So that's going to be something we focus on with our teachers from lesson to lesson. We are also collaborating with state recommended Hill for Literacy. Hill for Literacy was training principals last year once a month. We were meeting with Hill for Literacy Learning, science of reading pedagogy, and how to implement it into our classrooms, really focusing on K-3. And Hill for Literacy is going to work with us on focusing on not just K-3, but K-6. And what they're going to do is provide professional development for principals. They're given professional development to classroom teachers, reading interventionists, and they're going to come and do some work with our parents and share with them how they can help support their families at home, which I feel is huge and a big piece off of, we're going to do it collaboratively with them, but they're forcing us to get this done and to show specific things of what's going to help move literacy skills along. The biggest thing that we're doing with Literacy for Hill is data teams, and they're going to be district-wide data teams, so all of kindergarten, all of 3rd grade, or all of 6th grade, whatever grade we're focusing on that day, is coming together virtually district-wide. So we are all in this together. It is no longer Eli Whitney's doing this, and their scores are going to improve or not, and the next elementary school is doing that. We are coming together, sharing ideas, sharing strategies, and looking at the data as a whole, because we're all in this to move the scores together, not just one particular classroom or one particular school. So it's very exciting to be working with Hill for Literacy.
On the secondary level, we're partnering with the Barr Foundation, and we're going to continue this collaboration, which allows us to really help students plan for future success. They're doing a lot of work with our staff on incorporating the portrait of the graduate into our curriculum and how to really provide some transformative learning experiences for our kids. They're addressing academic needs, but also focusing on the social emotional development, so finding that balance. We want to maintain our social emotional work that we're doing, but we also want to start setting those academic expectations higher and pushing our kids to where we know they can achieve. One of the main goals of this Barr Foundation is to help each of the schools build an inclusive school culture as well, where every student is known and challenged and supported. So those are 3 really important initiatives there. I've been really impressed. I've never worked with the Barr Foundation before, but the workshop that we did in the opening of school, what's impressive about it is it's asking every aspect of the school to incorporate the portrait of the graduate. And a lot of times we focus on the 4 cores all the time, and some of the other departments are left out of that work, but it was just great to see the PE teachers, the health teachers, the art teachers, everyone in the building, finding out how they can incorporate the portrait of the graduate into their curriculum and into their instruction. So it was really nice to see.
We thought we'd keep it interesting and going back and forth. Promise, there's only a couple slides left. Very quickly, we can talk about our MTSS process. Last year, it was revamped, and there were some, tricky parts to it. So we really took a group of various staff members throughout the district, from elementary up through high school, including special education, ELL, different representatives, to look at our MTSS system and how can we make it better. Last year, we were not supporting the needs of students that needed individual attention in the tiered process until too late in the school year. So we have revised that area so that it's very specific. And our biggest thing, and you'll hear this out of my mouth everywhere I go in talking to staff, is consistency. We want consistency across the school so that no matter what school your child is going to, if they have a need to be in the tiered process, they're gonna get that need and they're gonna get their needs addressed in the same systemic format that we produced. So it's covering early identification, again, data-driven, and of course Hilford Literacy will be able to help us with this as well. The other thing new was, obviously you know about the state-approved evaluation program. You guys approved it, the state approved it. I think our staff accepted it very well. We still need work on really getting familiar with it better because it's completely different from the past evaluation system. It is looking more for growth of the individual staff member, areas that they feel they want to get better at, which is going to reinvigorate them to want to be a teacher, to go for PD that's aligned with their goals, that's going to help, again, invigorate them with new things that they're learning to bring back. And it also incorporates and really promotes cross-teaching from teacher to teacher. So you have some strengths in one teacher and they could work with maybe a weakness in another teacher in that area and vice versa. They're going to work closely together.
And one of the last pieces is, of course, professional development for our staff. We want to really be responsive to the evolving needs of our teachers. We send out surveys we did send out surveys at the end of the opening day of professional development, got their feedback as to what they wanted to do. We're really going to make an effort throughout the year to listen to their voices and be able to provide as much as we can for them to help them meet their needs. We really, we're looking for, again, skill enhancement, teacher improvement. I'm really excited about the new teacher evaluation system because it is truly focused on growth and not on numbers and not on a rating scale for the teachers. So we're hoping that that's really going to have an impact on school culture as well as teacher development. So we're going to continue to strive to provide those teacher development days. We have our data collaboration days as well, which allow us to look closer at the numbers and to see how that's going to impact our planning and instruction. So that's a big part of what we are going to do moving forward. So again, we've thrown a lot at you tonight. I'm sure you must have some questions, and maybe you don't even have them tonight. It might take some time looking at the data to develop some questions. We'll be happy to talk about them as we move forward throughout the school year. But we will, these initiatives that we just laid out are just a few examples of the steps that we're going to take for improvement. We are committed to creating a more positive climate and culture in our district, as well as enabling our students to grow and our staff to grow. They're woven together, these initiatives, to create a really supportive environment that, again, promotes both academic and emotional well-being with our students. So that is the conclusion of our presentation. Dr. Diorio and I do want to thank you, as always, for your unwavering support and your guidance as we work together to improve our policies and our curriculum. And we do look forward to your feedback and continued partnership moving forward. Thank you for your patience with us tonight. We appreciate it.
I just want to first start by saying thank you to the assistant superintendents for presenting data with integrity, but not just that, for modeling. They are modeling what it means to be a solution-driven problem solver. So they did not just present data, they presented data with solutions. And that is what I am most impressed with this team and why I like working with you guys so much. So thank you, and thank you for presenting this with such integrity.
Questions? Comments?
I have a whole bunch of questions, but I'll email them later.
Okay.
But one of the biggest things I wanted to ask about was there was a touch point on testing fatigue, and we know that our kids are tested what seems like every other day throughout the year. What are we talking about in short term to do about that? And are we looking at anything going away? I think the teachers are fatigued by it too, to be honest with you. I think that it's just
administrators were fatigued.
I'm sure, yeah.
Yeah, so for an example, with NWEA, last year we had it in reading, we had it in math, we had it in science, and we had it in language. And what we, analyzed and figured out, the science, yes, we're given it, but we're given a screening, and after the fall, if we don't feel that it's meeting the needs of what we need, because the mid-year and the ending is tagged as pending. If it is helpful and we do find that it's going to help drive our instruction, we'll keep the science, but we took language off the list. So there's a lot of things that we looked at the assessment calendar, and our MTSS team kind of helped us look at that, along with our reading interventionists and STEM interventionists for elementary, and the teachers, reading and STEM teachers in secondary, of what can come off the plate. So anything that was overlapping and just a redundant of giving you the same information, we kept one, obviously, because you need it, and we took the rest off. So our assessment calendar has been reduced by tremendously for this year.
Can you just clarify part of the question regarding a screener versus giving the full assessment and the reduction of that?
So that was, thank you for mentioning that. The other thing was, and we learned this from the state, you don't have to give full assessments if you give a screener first. So if a student is passing the screener, we are not putting them through, like we did last year, the entire assessment, long assessment. So if they pass the screening, there's no need. They can dive into the curriculum and start from where they're at, while someone that's struggling might need to have another smaller assessment that's going to drill down to specify the need of the student so that we can target the instruction for that student.
We get a copy of that assessment calendar, just to know about,
Sure.
how many times?
It's on the website.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, under teaching and learning.
All right, and then how often are we administering the NWA this year?
So, fall, winter, spring for NWEA. We talked about taking away possibly fall in the future because we can use the spring scores, but right now, because NWEA was so new, some people wanted to get rid of it. And we just felt, look, it's so new to us, before we just scratch it, let's really take this year to learn it better and see if it's meeting the needs of our students, and if not, there are other assessments that aren't as lengthy, but so we are looking where we can reduce it even more.
And that's being given to all grade levels?
Nope. So we started in 3rd grade and up, because it was not beneficial for kindergarten, 1st or 2nd, to put them through that. There was conversation possibly in the future 2nd grade spring to kind of get them ready to take, a test online for 3rd grade, but right now we chose not to, and we'll analyze as we go along. So 3rd grade and up, where before it was kindergarten all the way through 12th grade, multiple times throughout the year. And I think what really, I don't know if you guys understand, it wasn't just giving it fall, winter, spring, but when you gave it, anyone that had alternate setting had to get pulled out of instruction to have that alternate setting, and it took so long. So by having a screener first, there's lots of students that won't have to sit through the entire assessment, especially if they pass that screening.
And just to make a point, we've mentioned it already, but it's almost like a catch-22. We want to get the data to assess where they are, but then we're taking away that instructional time. And again, obviously I wasn't here, but I've been involved in discussions with administration, and the number of minutes lost for individual students as well as all the students, we really think had an impact on the academic success of our kids. So we're looking forward to seeing the results of this.
Has there been discussion about 12th grade seniors?
Yep, there also has. I don't think 12th has taken it in the spring.
It might be
In the
just
spring.
11th grade.
And we also, we're having a lot of discussions too about how to re-motivate them around the SAT. Again, post-COVID, most universities are making it optional, so that urgency isn't there. And again, that has its pluses and minuses as well. I think that's a good thing, especially with someone who's going through the college process right now with my daughter. But at the same time, when the test comes around, that urgency isn't there to succeed, because it doesn't mean as much as it used to. So we're looking at that too.
Just the last, can we get a electronic copy of this presentation, just so I can further?
Absolutely.
I have a few questions if somebody wants to jump in after each one and ask another question. So my first one is, the Hill, the program they're preparing for us for interventions, are they using interreading, the interreading materials as the intervention materials?
Yeah, the nice thing with Hill is they're familiar with several of the new programs that are in the different districts. They work with several different districts, so they know interreading well. So although they're teaching us pedagogy on the science of reading, we're taking it to the next step where here's the science of reading, here's what it means, and now here's how to implement it with interreading and how we're, covering all the aspects of those areas.
I asked because we use them in Bridgeport. I thought this
Did you find success with them, or?
until they were eliminated from the program by.
Yeah, and we work with the affinity group from being the first cohort for the state that got to learn the science of reading. We worked with Derby and East Haven, and East Haven worked with them last year and had so much tremendous positive comments with working with them. So we kind of brought them in to more the second half of the year working with principals to start with, and then we learned more about what they can do for us. And I think the data team district-wide is going to be huge.
The advisors
for us.
that push in are very knowledgeable and positive with the teachers and great suggestions for the teachers. As a teacher,
Great to hear.
I remember I received good follow-up.
And you were all part of that solution-driven problem solving, because with Ms. Mangini and with the board, we were able to do these PDs and keep it K-6 and roll out the program and partner with Hill. And those are huge benefits to our teachers, our staff, and our students.
So I have a question on the data you presented. I didn't notice until after SAT. For SBAC and NGSS, there were no. I can't remember as a teacher what if we didn't do SBAC and NGSS in 2020 and 2021. Because I noticed you skip, in all of those charts, you skipped over those 2 school years. I know 2020 was dropped. I just couldn't remember if it was. Because I'd be curious if we did 2021, would there be a dip, a further dip?
I think we did. I think that's
2022?
why the data didn't come out, because that was 2 years worth.
That's all for me. Thanks.
I attended the convocation this year for the first time ever, and I've heard nothing but positive feedback after over the years hearing negative feedback. And over the years I've heard, not being a teacher, I don't know much about the professional development days, except I've heard a lot of negative comments that they're a waste of time. From what you said, it sounds like they're going to be maybe better, and maybe compared to the convocation, and people will be more positive about them.
Sorry. One of the things that I noticed from being here over the years, we would call it professional development, but sometimes teachers would get together and they'd be writing CFAs or doing things that are not professional development for them. So we are, really holding a commitment that when we're calling it professional development, we're giving them information and knowledge that's going to help them bring to their students. But that's one of the reasons we heard a lot of negatives with professional development in the past.
And I'll just add that we're also trying to do the same with administrators, who are often the forgotten factors as well. A lot of times, historically, their meetings were get-togethers where a list of things are just thrown at them, and tasks. It's task-oriented, where we're really focused, Ms. Borges and the two of us, on trying to build the skills in conjunction with the initiatives that you heard, especially with the new evaluation system, working on how best to evaluate teachers, what kind of effective feedback that we can give, and really reflecting and having work sessions with the administrators as well. So we're hoping that, again, I think the early things we've heard as well have been positive, so that's something to build on, and we're going to hope to continue it all year long.
And what we really want to do from our leadership perspective is make sure we're listening. So when we hear our teachers, we can't always do everything instantly, but we want to make sure that we're listening. And I will say the addition of these 2 has really opened that up a lot. Phil has shown us his skill on crafting feedback after PDs and making sure both administrators and teachers have opportunity to do that. But we don't just collect the feedback. We actually sit down, look at it, and try to make our next decision be impacted by what we heard.
Well, I'd like to see you come back next month after we've had a chance to look at this closer and ask you more questions at that time.
Anytime.
So I do have a couple comments. You know, since I've been on the board, I've seen things, in my opinion, that were curriculums that necessarily weren't meeting the needs of the students. Frustrated teachers because they didn't have the resources they had. Students who weren't engaged. You know, and I've always said we really need to tear it all down. I've always equated it to like a remodeling job. You know, going into a job, just tearing it down to the studs and building it from new. And I've got to commend Ms. Borges and her team. You guys, in my opinion, have done a phenomenal job of doing that. Just tearing it down, not keeping any sacred cows, but you know, getting back to the basics, the chronic absenteeism, the attendance, the DESA, in-school suspension, the out-of-school suspension, looking at the reading program and her aggressive nature to which she went after the funding so we can implement that reading program, especially after seeing the results in the focus groups. Digging up and you know, although it was fairly new to us, the MTSS wasn't functioning correctly, and we could have just held on to it and said let's go, but you guys had the audacity to tear it apart and rebuild it in a manner that's working, creating a new evaluation system for teachers so that they can get the support they need and redoing the professional development. We could have continued in the same vein, the status quo, and just said, it's just whatever. But to have the audacity to tear it down and rebuild it takes a real commitment, and in my opinion, you guys are doing a phenomenal job. I commend you on doing that. And I look forward to the scores. I think some of the scores, some of the key factors that show the kids are coming back to school. They're in the classroom. We're doing things to ensure they're in the classroom. We're ensuring that their mental health is addressed as was the DESA scores. You know, a lot of that stuff is there, and I'm hearing, as Bill talked about with the convocation, I think teachers are feeling heard and they're feeling empowered. And it starts from leadership, it starts from listening, it starts from including. And I think we've done that, and I'm going to commend you guys on it, and I look forward to what comes out of it. It's been a short run for you, but I think you've tackled some monumental obstacles, and I think we're on a good path. And I really want to say congratulations and thank you.
Thank you.
Edit? Alrighty. Move on to the superintendent's executive report.
Because I knew tonight was a data presentation night, I've kept my executive report fairly short. As we continue charting our course together this fall, I want to begin this report by recognizing and celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month. This time of year provides us with a wonderful opportunity to honor and highlight the rich cultural contributions of our Hispanic and Latinx communities, both locally in Stratford and across the nation. Our students and staff benefit immensely from the diversity that makes up the heart of our school district. I encourage each of you to engage in the learning and the reflection that this month promotes, reinforcing our commitment to inclusivity and the recognition of cultural histories that shape our shared experience. Many of our schools are engaging in a lot of activities, and I would strongly encourage you to reach out and see if you can participate. It is a wonderful, uplifting thing to do during this month. On a different note, the last few weeks have also been one marked by difficulty and reflection. So in the aftermath of the tragedy of Georgia, and amid the stress and anxiety it brings, I want to take a moment to extend my sincere gratitude, first to our Stratford Public Schools staff, for your dedication to the well-being and safety of our students. And next, I want to send a huge shout out to the town of Stratford, and particularly our public safety teams and our police department. Your extra presence and support during these challenging times have not gone unnoticed, and you provided reassurance to our school community and have demonstrated once again the strength and resilience of this town. We are well aware that our police are understaffed currently, and for them to put in extra shifts to be present at our schools was huge and very appreciated. When you combine both the celebrations of Hispanic Heritage Month along with the tragedies we've had to deal with, it is in times of both celebration and sorrow that we find the power of community. So I thank you for your continued dedication to our schools, our students, and our mission for ensuring safe, welcoming environments for every learner.
Questions for Ms. Borges?
I do have a question. So this past week, there was an incident at one of our public schools. It was shared in the newspaper. I didn't see any communication personally about that before it came out in the newspaper. And I just want to put that out there. I think that we need to work on our transparency, especially as a parent myself sending my kids to school. It's very frightening in this day and age, like you spoke to. And when there's misinformation or lack thereof information, it makes it very contentious to send your kids to school, and that could hinder our chronic absenteeism and moving forward. I just think that we really need to be as transparent with parents as possible, because it's very difficult for them and our teachers to teach in that environment. So that's all my point. Thank you.
We did send out notification to that specific school community. It was limited because the police department was in the middle of an investigation and asked us not to share certain details. So I'll make sure going forward, Teresa, when those go out for that community, make sure the board gets it as well.
I just want to add to what you said about Hispanic Heritage Month. The 10th annual Latin Music Festival a week ago Sunday had an incredible crowd. I think the biggest they've ever had. And at the Stratford Veterans Museum, we have a special Hispanic heritage display set up to honor all those that served from Stratford.
All right, Mr. Mangini, the moment you've been waiting for.
And I'm sure you all have been too. As you know, this is a little bit unusual this month. You received some financial information in your board packet, primarily because the Finance Committee did not meet in September. And though we'll certainly discuss all of the information that is shared with you in more detail at the next Finance Committee meeting, I did want to highlight a couple of things of what you did receive. First and foremost, your monthly reports right now, you know, are not providing you with very much information, particularly the August one. It's very early in our fiscal year. But I am happy to share that we just completed a bid process with the town for fuel, and effective November 1, new pricing will go into effect, and it is considerably less per gallon. So I will be working on what the potential savings is due to that new pricing. Also, I wanted to let the board know, because I have sleepless nights over it, but the state education financial system report was completed not only prior to the due date of September 3rd, as required by state statute, but it was actually done as a birthday gift to me on August 29th, so I was really grateful for that. This report, of course, is audited through the annual audit process, and oftentimes there are adjustments that need to be made, whether the town has some additional adjusting entries or we need to. The auditors will take a look at that, and then prior to December 31st, we'll make certain that any adjustments are there. I also shared with you the unaudited June 30th, 2024 report, along with a written overview of the fiscal year end. Again, we can definitely take a little more time to discuss that in October. The year-end balance, however, at this point for fiscal year 24 is reflected at $1,593,947. And of course, this is pending the final audit. And though there are a number of variables that did affect the budget, the primary areas of savings that I reported since October have never changed. It's always been as a result primarily of salary and benefits. But again, we can get into the details in October. Also, the board is being asked this evening to approve a blanket year-end budget transfer motion. It's part of the annual end-of-year process. We need to make a number of budget transfers to those salary lines, some of the special education cost centers such as professional services, transportation, and tuition accounts. The amounts may be tweaked a little bit as we finalize some of the last of the invoices against some of the open encumbrances. But the budget transfers will allow us to follow board policy 3160 that requires us to end the year with no deficit accounts. And also you may recall that the financial controls audit that was done a few years ago also made the same recommendation to eliminate all deficit accounts, so it's really just housekeeping. And lastly, not on a financial note, I just wanted to publicly talk a moment about the food service program. Each year since COVID, the state keeps changing that a bit, and this year we have a program called the STAR program, and it's the State Transition Assistance for Reduced Price Meals. It's going to be available for school year 24-25, and it will cover the cost to families for one breakfast and one lunch per day. And this is important, only for students who qualify for reduced price meals. So we are really encouraging our families more than ever to make certain that they do apply for the free and reduced meals and complete the applications. Only in our non-CEP schools. CEP schools do not require those applications. But if a family is just not sure that they qualify, all of the information is confidential, and if they don't qualify, then of course we will just file that and keep it aside, and perhaps if something changes in their family during the year, they can certainly submit again. But oftentimes they may not realize, if you check the thresholds, they are on our website along with the electronic copy of the applications. You can also get a hard copy at the schools. But again, we encourage families to at least fill out the application, because they very well may be eligible at the very least for the reduced priced meals, which under this program will allow them to have free meals for their children each day. So that is my report this evening.
Mrs. Mancini, you talked about the CEP schools. I know there's been some conversation around the CEP program and how that will work going forward, and will our schools that are currently receiving CEP continue?
They will continue for this year, and I think you may be referring to what we talked about last year about possibly becoming a CEP district. And we worked really hard this year at trying to determine what the cost could be. When I first arrived here 4+ years ago, the CEP program was actually costing the district about $100,000 a year. And when we were in deficit for the program as a whole, we weren't sure that we could continue it. Our percentages changed when we reran the numbers. We were able to come to a closer break-even point, which is where we're at with the 6 schools. When we did the math back in April and May, it would cost the district potentially $250,000 to $300,000 to a complete CEP district. Some districts feel that that's acceptable, but with all we were struggling with and the positions that we were eliminating, this particular year was not the time to do that, but we will certainly take a look at that again before the end of this school year.
So are you looking for a motion this evening, or?
Yes, it's under your items for action, number 2.
Okay. And just about the financial report.
Sure.
There's a $918,000 deficit in tuition, I think. Is that special ed?
Yes, it is.
And just to keep you in the loop, when you have your finance meeting next month and the month after, even our RESC is greatly increasing the out-of-district tuition costs. Because again, at the state level, there are no guardrails and there are no caps. So we just received an email today, very last minute, that CES has had a large tuition increase. Couldn't have planned for that last year because that wasn't what was originally told to us. So it is not just the public and private out-of-district tuitions. It's now even our RESCs are doing large jumps for the out-of-district placements.
All right, so I look for an acceptance of the meeting minutes for the August 26, 24 regular meeting and the August 26, 2024 special meeting. she's down in, yeah, it's
So
like,
moved. I'll make the motion, so moved.
moved by Ms. Carol Fabian, seconded by Mr. Kennedy. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Proposed the personnel resignation, Human Resources Administration, motion to accept this as offered.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Padel.
Second.
Second by Mr. O'Brien. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. So we'll be looking for a motion to approve the 24 blanket year-end budget transfer. Move that the Board of Ed authorize the Chief Operating Officer and Director of Finance to make the necessary budget transfers to salary, professional services, transportation, and tuition accounts, and to pay other standard charges. These budget transfers may exceed board policy thresholds. The Chief Operating Officer and the Director of Finance will report all budget transfers made to the Finance Committee and Board of Ed.
Should this be approved by the finance committee first and then come back to us, even though we're all on the finance committee? I'm just-
If you would like me to answer, it's absolutely up to the board, but it's not really required because ultimately it would be the board's decision. But I'm fine with whatever you choose.
Because I didn't want us to do something we shouldn't be out of compliance. And such.
Look, what I mean, and it's up to you, if that's the route you guys wanna take, and if Ms. Mangini's okay with it, we can do that, or.
And I will just add, we're a little early this year because your board policy really states that our final fiscal year 24 report really doesn't come to you until October, but we're a little ahead of the game, so.
So then, since we are ahead of the game, why don't we give the finance committee the courtesy, and we'll send it over to them if that's okay, and
They
allow
do
it.
have the information, so they'll be happy to discuss.
That sounds good.
Yeah, I wasn't disputing, it was just, I didn't want us to be out of compliance in some way.
Good question. And I think it's fair, to send it over. So I would look for a motion to table the approval of the 2024 blanket year-end budget transfer and send it over to the finance committee.
So moved.
All right, second by Mr. Cormier. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. All right, we have a proposed policy, suspension, expulsions, due process, second read. Mr. O'Brien, do you want to?
Motion to approve.
Motion approved by Mr. O'Brien.
Second?
Second. Is there any discussion on that? Can you just give us some highlights update where we are with it? Just, I know we've talked about it before, but it's.
I mean, it went through your policy committee, it was sent here, the first read, we answered several questions. Everything has been addressed and updated, and I think it's ready for final approval.
And it's all directed by state statute.
Mhm.
Yeah. All right, any other discussion? No, it's a final read, so we'll do a roll call vote. Ms. Carol Fabian?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. Dell?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Cormier?
Yes.
Ms. D'Angelo Powers?
Yes,
And the board votes yes, motion passed unanimously. Policy 5132, student attire, dress code, second read adoption, policy review committee.
Motion to approve.
Motion approved by Mr.
Second.
O'Brien, seconded by Mr. Cormier. Any comments? Questions?
Well, once again, one of our subcommittees spent a lot of time on this, and subcommittees are doing a great job.
Mr. Cormier, was
And
that?
then we made the changes that were brought up by the board last meeting, so.
And have we addressed there was, I think probably the one thing that was discussed is shirts. Is everybody comfortable with the language? Is it appropriate attire? Are we all good with it?
It was changed, it was changed to be more inclusive.
Okay.
We've narrowed clothing down to students must wear clothing including both a shirt, pants or skirt, or the equivalent dresses, leggings, yoga pants, shorts, sweatpants.
Okay.
We narrowed it down, so it's more inclusive, less directed to gender specific.
All right, everybody's good with it. No other discussion? Roll call vote, Ms. Carol Fabian?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. Dell?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Cormier?
Yes.
Ms. D'Angelo Bowers?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, motion passed unanimously. Next item on the agenda, proposed acting superintendent compensation. When we had a meeting last month, there were some questions about the dollars and cents of it all. I had put some numbers together just to give you kind of a breakdown of where we would be if we adjusted the acting superintendent's daily rate to $400 a day.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
that entire conversation was an executive session on the 26th of August.
Was it an executive? I thought we
Yes.
had that.
And I was actually gonna say, it's a little uncomfortable, so if you guys could go into executive
Well, it
session.
was also tabled, so to have it, like, to vote on something that was tabled in executive session without having,
Okay. So then I would look for a motion to go into executive session. I thought, it was my bad, I thought we had that in the public forum. Make a motion, I look for a motion to head into executive session to discuss the acting superintendent compensation.
Second.
Discussion? Just a quick discussion. Could Ms. Mangini join us? Executive session.
Sure, so that executive session would include Ms. Mangini. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. We will end executive session. Yeah, we had the evaluation. I thought we had the evaluation.
Can you leave? Yeah, please.
It actually knocks down the airport fence.
That fence is now structured to break away.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, because it's knocked down so
Well,
many
there's a huge
times.
piece of driftwood that came across.
Yeah, it's now structured to break away intentionally, so we're losing our 7 feet.
Hmm? Yeah.
The diehards are still here.
Now, the Burma Road, it really shows up.
I've only seen it flood once, and that was
I don't think we need that anymore unless you want to.
Do you know what calendar it is?
Guys can go.
Shut down?
You guys are dismissed.
Really? Dismissed. Have a wonderful night.
Did you send me the board? I haven't checked my email.
Yeah. Hey, Pam?
I won't argue.
I think Greg's gonna try to-
Sorry.
Send to the board. Before you do this.
Okay.
We could do like a partial. Yeah. Do you think it's beneficial? Sure. That's a good idea. All right. Sounds good. Oh, she said we can go get it. Yeah, we'll
And they house them at the house behind the firehouse.
Oh, yeah. You guys would do that.
And they actually have some school.
I heard I wasn't some. I think. Who took it for you? No, Brian Barry.
Oh, yeah. Oh, right, right, I remember she said that. She said, I'll see you, man. That's right.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Do they live in Stratford?
Yeah, he lives in Camden, his boat in Stratford.
That's been a good summer on both man trap.
But I saw an address on the check, said Mary Avenue.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry.
No worries. No. All right, look for a motion to come out of executive
So
session.
moved.
Motion by Mr. Ryan, second by Mr. Bell. I'm going to make a motion in regards to the acting superintendent compensation to raise the daily stipend $150 a day.
Some,
Moved by Mr. Dow. Any discussion? Go roll call vote. Ms. Carol Fabian?
just trying to lay it all out for me, because it has nothing to do about job performance. This is just fiscal responsibility for me. We've sacrificed so much, like alpha librarians, and I'm just concerned where the funds will come from. So, I'm gonna have to vote no.
Yes.
Mr. Bell?
yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Cormier?
Yes.
Ms. D'Angelo Powers?
I echo Lisa's statement, no.
And the chair votes yes, the motion passes 5-2. Thank you. I know that was a difficult discussion. Fiscal responsibility was the main weighing factor, and I appreciate that sentiment. Anyway, that's where we're at. So, we move on. I don't think we have any committee assignments.
Residency, there's nothing there?
You,
Just that each of you will receive today or will receive tomorrow an invite to join one of the task force, and I tried to schedule them later in the afternoon so that you could do your jobs and still come, and I really hope that you're able to, and if you can't, I understand, but your participation is really wanted.
We'll jump down to committee reports, curriculum, Mr. Kennedy or Ms. Carol Fabian.
Yeah, so, to start, we met 4 weeks ago, and it was more of a planning session, I felt like at the end. We want to try to start to tackle some of the things that Arlene left us to do, but it relates to a lot of what we heard today. So I know the chair is going to try to set up some time to meet with the assistant superintendents to kind of start that conversation to see how we can tackle some of those areas, whether that's some type of some small subcommittees to help out with some of these things. That's kind of where we're at right now.
Ms. Carol Fabian, do you have anything to add?
No, it was a very short meeting.
Finance committee?
We didn't meet this month after conversations with Ms. Mangini. The meeting was canceled because we really didn't have an agenda with the school year having just started. So we will resume in October and have more to discuss then.
Planning, we met on the 16th. SLAM came and did a presentation centered around scenario 1. Had some discussion about how to implement it, the best ways to implement it so as not to have the least negative impact on those affected. Had asked for questions and then the committee members to think about it. And our next meeting will be on October 3rd. So I'd ask them to bring questions, concerns, solutions, and if not, to be prepared to vote.
Don't think we have school on October 3rd. Would we still have the meeting?
Is that the Jewish holiday? Yeah.
All right, so we might need to cancel it and reschedule it as a special. Thank you. Liaison did not meet, Mr.
Yes, can I just, I know you and Ms. Borges speak a lot about communication with the town. I'm just wondering if either of you then know when we'll actually have a liaison meeting, which would be actual communication between the board and the town council, because we have not had one in 6 months. So any kind of communication is behind closed doors and limited to only the 2 of you and the town, and not the members of that actual committee.
I'll check with the chairman, who I think is Carrie, I think.
Carrie.
I'll check with her.
We haven't met since March.
I actually didn't even get an invite to the meetings that did happen in March. I actually heard about those from you.
No, I forwarded them to you because
Yeah.
you were not invited.
Yes. So I don't know.
Right, but it's just,
We were canceled in February and March last year.
well, February,
Right.
March, but we're talking 6 months now.
Okay. Yeah, we'll reach out to them, see if we can see where we're at. Or if you guys want to. Policy review, Mr. Glenn?
Yeah, we had another great meeting September 18th. Just such an impressive committee that works so hard. Chris, Mike, and I represent the board, and then a very diverse group, principals, social workers. Just we're making great progress. And each month you're going to see more policy sent for approval. And I think the subcommittee system works very well because people, when they take it on, they do the job. Chris, you did a great job on that one policy.
Anything you want to add, Mr. Cormier?
Just our group was working, I think there's 3 or 4 policies out there that'll probably be up and ready for first reads within the next, if not next month, they'll be ready for November.
And then athletic review?
October 14th would be our first, or 10th, right? Is it the 14th or the
Says the 14th on the
Will be
agenda.
our
Bylaws committee, we met, we're still working our way through it. We've whittled it down to quite a bit, and we still have some more work to do. It's I think I've said before, it's like a 60-page document that pages just kept getting added and added on. So we're trying to make some sense of it. Yeah, Ms. D'Angelo Bowers, you have anything?
No, that would have to be rescheduled as well, so I just wanna.
Yeah, yes, because I think they're both on the same day. Okay.
Mhm.
Yep. Naming committee, personnel committee have not met.
Naming will probably be getting a new request soon. We got a email requesting information on the process. So they know what they have to do, so if they send it, then we'll meet.
Ms. Carol Fabian on CABE.
Just a reminder that CABE has their CABE CAPS convention Friday, November 15th and Saturday, November 16th up at the Mystic Marriott Hotel. If anyone is interested in attending either of those days or both of those days, to let Teresa know that she will book that for you.
And CES.
No updates this one.
Updates, no ability needs, no updates. General good and welfare.
Yeah, I wanna jump in real quick on general good and welfare. With open house season, I know nobody's here anymore, but it's recorded, so with open house season upon us and everybody attending open houses, I've moved on to Worcester with my oldest child now, and I have to say that I was extremely impressed by Worcester and their staff and everything that they had to offer. I think they did a really good job, and I'm really looking forward to being there.
Look for a motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn, moved by Mr. Bryan. Second by Mr. Cormier. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Thank you.